I'm Jen from That Mama Book Nook, and welcome back to my channel. I don't know why I only seem to film on days when it's like 90 degrees and I am melting. It is August. Today I'm going to be sharing my August TBR, my August hopefuls list, my August Delula's list, whatever you want to call it. Let's just get right into it. The first book that I'm going to be sharing is Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This is a pretty well-known, well-read book, well-loved also. I am excited that I finally am getting to read it. I'm reading this with my local book club. I actually picked this copy up when I was on vacation last year when I was just thinking about starting my Bookstagram account. So it feels really fun that I'm actually going to end up finally reading it around my 1 year Bookstagram anniversary. This follows Tova. Her husband recently died and she takes a job at a local aquarium doing kind of janitorial tasks. She is a little bit of a loner, but she does enjoy working with the aquatic animals there. She particularly makes friends with a giant octopus named Marcellus. Tova has kind of a tragic past because not only did her husband die, but her son actually went missing many years ago, kind of never to be found. Marcellus decides that he wants to help Tova figure out what happened to her son. I believe what I've heard is that the octopus isn't necessarily talking out loud, but we're kind of getting his internal thoughts. A really great August read. As I said, I'm super excited to get to it. I heard that it's this author's debut novel, which is also really cool. So that'll be fun. The next book that I have on my August TBR is The X-Files by Jessica Joyce. I don't have a copy of this one yet, but I am hoping to snag one. This is with the Reading Through book club, and as always, I will link any book clubs or other creators that I mention in my video in the description if they are a public book club. I really enjoyed You with a View, which is written by the same author, so I am excited for her new book. This was just released in July, I believe. This follows Georgia, who is a big list maker. I can relate to that, and she has made a list even about her ex-boyfriend Eli. I think kind of probably a pros and cons list, mostly cons about reasons why not to still be in love with him. But Georgia and Eli are still mutual friends with this other guy, and he's getting married and they are both in the wedding, so they're gonna have to meet up, work together, and Georgia is relying heavily on that list. They are, going to this wedding, but chaos ensues because the venue burns to the ground. It's a big mess. Their mutual friend calls on them to please help me save my wedding. Now they not only are they seeing each other, but they have to work very closely together to pull it together for their mutual friend. Working so closely, there are certainly sparks that are reigniting there. See where the romance goes. I am not usually a big fan of second chance romance. It has to have a really good reason of why they broke up the first time, why they would consider getting back together, what has changed that would work now that didn't work then. I haven't crossed second chance romance off my list completely. It's not like I won't read it. I'm just usually a little bit more wary, so I don't know the reason why they're broken up, and I think I saw that you don't even find that out until a good chunk through the book, so I'll be interested to see and share my thoughts on if it was a good second chance romance or not. Then the next book club read I'm doing is the Book of Azrael by Amber V. Nicole. This is on Kindle Unlimited, and this is with the Introverted Bookish Besties book club. I mentioned before, I'm not the best at fantasy synopses. I think a fair amount of people actually do struggle with it a little bit, but because I'm also relatively new to reading fantasies, I feel like I'm especially bad at it, so just always bear with me. So this follows Diana. She basically kind of sells her soul, so to speak, in order to save her dying sister, but the trade-off is that she now needs to go do the bidding of Caden, and that includes putting herself in dangerous situations, especially to work on retrieving this ancient relic, the Book of Asriel, hence the title. Then on the flip side, we meet Liam, also known as the World Ender, and he's kind of been in hiding for some time. He is sent back to this realm where one of his enemies is Diana, and they end up needing to work together to stop Caden from getting his hands on this book. This is clearly an enemies to lovers romantasy. Early reviews that I've been reading seem like it's pretty good, so I'm excited to read that. Then the next book that I'm reading is The Reunion by Megan Quinn. This is also on Kindle Unlimited, and I'm reading this with the Sweeney Readers. This book sounds super cute. This follows 3 adult siblings. They are coming together to plan their parents' 50th wedding anniversary. But despite their parents having clearly a very successful marriage, none of them have been successful in the romance department. Ford is the oldest. He is a workaholic. Cooper, the middle child, is divorced. And Palmer, the youngest, is a free spirit. So none of them have been successful in finding love or soulmates or any like that. So they come together to plan this 50th wedding anniversary party for their parents. They deal with sibling rivalries, and I do believe that it does go through finding romances for each of these siblings. I am one of 3 children, and I am raising 3 children, so I have a personal connection to that 3 children dynamic, even as adults. So I am excited to read this one and kind of get those feels. Then the next book on my TBR is I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. I'm planning to grab this one from my library. I'm reading this one with the Literally Dead book club hosted by Kayla from Books and Lala. This is a fictional memoir about Tolly Driver, who becomes a teenage slasher in the 1980s. And that's pretty much all I know about that book. I think it gets a little bit mixed reviews because I think it's a little bit of stream of consciousness, but I think it sounds really fun, and I'm totally here for the 80s vibes. Then the next book is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This is also on Kindle Unlimited. Another fantasy synopsis. This follows Ceres, I think is how you say it. Maybe not. She has magical powers, but she has been keeping them secret, and she also has been keeping secret that she's been stealing from the queen for a while. She meets death. I don't think she meets her death. I think meaning she literally meets a person who is supposed to be the figure of death, and she gets transported to another realm of ice and snow. When she's there, she discovers that fae are actually real. While she is in this other realm, she accidentally binds herself to Kingfisher, who is a fae warrior, but he is also harboring some secrets. I am reading with the Stay-at-Home Mom Book Queen book club. Whenever I read a fantasy, I always look forward to doing it in a book club situation or a buddy read so that I can talk through it, but it sounds interesting. This one, seems some people really love it, and then some people are reading it because it's getting some hype and not loving it, so I'm interested to see where I fall in that. And because I clearly am not in enough book clubs, I am reading a book with the Accidental Book Club on YouTube and Discord this month. I am going to be reading The Au Pair Affair by Tessa Bailey. I'm not sure how I'm snagging a copy yet. I might buy this one. This is my second book that I've read by Tessa Bailey, but my first book with the Accidental Book Club. This is about Tallulah. She is studying to be a marine biologist and doesn't have a lot of money, so she's looking for work. So when newly single dad and like veteran hockey player Burgess offers her a job as a live-in nanny, she takes it. Burgess also needs some help kind of in the romance department, getting back on the dating scene. Tallulah is willing to help with that as well. But obviously, Tallulah and Burgess start to develop feelings for each other living there. I think there is some conflict though with the daughter's feelings about it. She's not like itty bitty. I think she's like a preteen. I am interested to see what I think about this one. Some of the tropes aren't my favorite, but I am keeping an open mind. I do want to read some of Tessa Bailey's other books. On to my buddy reads for the month. The first book that I am buddy reading with some friends is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. In this book, we meet Patricia Campbell. She has an okay life. It's just not super exciting. It's not maybe really what she imagined it. She gave up her career as a nurse when she married a doctor and had children, but her husband's kind of distant. Her kids aren't really that appreciative. She's a little bit bored at home, but the one thing that she does really enjoy is her book club, her local book club. They all have this mutual appreciation for true crime dramas and fictional suspense, so they have a great time when they get together. When a kind of mysterious new neighbor moves into the neighborhood, they are all, kind of gossipy about it and what's his deal. But then some local children go missing, and Patricia thinks that he might have something to do with it, so she and the book club kind of take it upon themselves to investigate, and they discover something even scarier. The little synopsis didn't say what that was, but I'm guessing from the titles that they think he's a vampire. So sounds like a fun read. I'm excited for it. This summer I signed up to be part of the Booksta Buddies program, so I am considered a newer Bookstagrammer, so I was paired up with a more veteran Bookstagrammer, and as part of that program we are doing some collaborative posts on Bookstagram. We're buddy reading, and we're just chatting and getting to know each other, and it's been so fun. But this month we're finally getting to our buddy read, and we are going to be reading The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. I am really excited to read this book. It sounds so good, so nostalgic. This follows Rafe and Jeremy, who as children, they go into the woods and they go missing. But 6 months later, they randomly reappear, and no one really knows what happened during those 6 months. Now we kind of flash forward to when they're adults. Rafe is an artist. He has no memory of what happened during that time. Jeremy, on the other hand, is a missing persons investigator, and he does remember what happened. So when he is helping a woman named Emily, whose little sister went missing in those same woods, he kind of needs to now bring back up Rafe to speed about where they were during those times, what happened, because he needs his help to find Emily's sister. So they are going back. Jeremy reveals is that they were actually in this magical realm that I think probably has some good, some danger, but they, take Emily and they go back to try to help and save her sister. The author and people who have read it describe this book very similar to an adult book of the Chronicles of Narnia, and I actually just read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe for the first time last year. I definitely knew the general story, but I had never read it, so I am really excited to kind of get those vibes again, just a little after reading it. And the last buddy read that I'm doing this month is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This book is coming in this month's Book of the Month box, so I will have a physical copy soon. I have been hearing really good things about this book. This takes place in August Perfect timing. 1975 though, in the setting of like a camp, an overnight camp, and one of the camp counselors goes to the bunk and there is a camper named Barbara. She's 13. She is missing. Obviously that's very alarming by itself, but what makes it even worse is that A, she is the child of the people who own the camp, but B, her brother went missing in a very similar fashion 14 years earlier and was never found. So then this story is kind of, trying to uncover what happened, what's going on with this family, what's going on with this camp, etc. I am really excited to read this one, and just because of all the great things I've been hearing, but then also the Literally Dead Book Club is actually reading this book for their September pick, so I will be all set. So one less book on my TBR for September will probably be a good thing. Then the next book I put on my TBR for Kayla from Books and Lala's Buzzword Challenge. The theme this month was that it had to have like in the title. So I picked up In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros. I'm going to grab this from my library. I have only read the Empyrean series, so Fourth Wing, Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, but I've actually heard really good things about her contemporary romances as well, so I'm excited to finally get to those. I've heard they can be really, really emotional, and I really like a book that rips out my heart and stomps on it. But this follows Izzy. She is heading home for the holidays via plane. She gets seated next to Nate. They kind of had this like immediate chemistry, but 90 seconds after takeoff, the plane goes down in the Missouri River. It sounds like they obviously survive, but they are just forever changed. They kind of cross paths over the years, but the timing is never quite right. Nate goes into the military, Izzy goes into politics, and then eventually they do meet up in Afghanistan in, a very dangerous time, and Nate is tasked with keeping Izzy safe. So a really heart-wrenching, emotional romance for sure. Okay, so then the next book that I always put on my TBR is my Goodreads Best Books Ever Challenge book. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I am reading through Goodreads Best Books Ever list in relative order. There is a couple of exceptions. So I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna try screen recording me looking at the list. Okay, so I think I do have an idea of which book it's going to be, but it does change sometimes. Discover, that's right. Okay, so Best Books Ever. So I've already read The Hunger Games, I read the first Harry Potter, I read Pride and Prejudice, To Kill a Mockingbird, The Book Thief, Twilight, Animal Farm, I read The Hobbit, I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Fault in Our Stars I read a long time ago, The Picture of Dorian Gray, The Giving Tree, Wuthering Heights, Gone with the Wind, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, The Lightning Thief. I just finished Jane Eyre, I have to mark that off. The Little Prince, and I'm doing Angels and Demons for the Da Vinci Code, are part of my rollover TBR, so I am going to read that. But yeah, okay, so the next one is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I think I said that right. I am really intimidated by this read. I think it's just like a big read. It's obviously like a classic. I've never read it before. We'll see how it goes. This follows Raskolnikov, I think is the pronunciation. He's kind of wandering the streets of St. Petersburg one night and he commits a random murder. And he doesn't feel bad about it. He doesn't feel guilty. He thinks he's above the law. But then when a police investigator starts kind of suspecting him, his conscience finally kind of clicks in, and I think he does start feeling some remorse. The synopsis says that the only person that can help him is Sonia, a local sex worker. So should be interesting. The plot really doesn't sound that bad. Just at this point in the year, this point in the summer, reading like such a heavy book wouldn't have been like the top of my list, although likely I won't even get to it this month, so I'm not gonna stress too much. But yeah, Crime and Punishment, here we go. And if you're kind of like, Jen, like why don't you just skip it if you don't want to read it, or you know, why are you forcing yourself to read it? That I'm not, first of all, I'm not a mood reader. I put books on my TBR, and I like created this Goodreads Best Books Ever challenge for myself. Like, it's not even something that Goodreads does, because that is part of what I like to read. I like to push myself outside of the boundaries of the books that I'm reading. I don't just read in my comfort genre, and so I like that I don't want to read it, if that makes any sense. So then I'm actually going to screen record again so you can see the next book in my highest rated book. So for this one, I just go into my TBR. These are books that I have on my shelf. These are books that I have that I just want to read, some that I have on my Kindle, and I just go to the next highest one, again with some exceptions like sequels and things like that, or like if a book's not out yet. So I go into, actually it'll be a little bit trickier on my phone, but I think it's okay for today at least. And I sort by average rating. So this one, the Sunrise on the Reaping, hasn't come out yet. These two books are sequels, but I read the ones in place. This is an arc that I actually am reading. So I very recently put Brandon Sanderson books on my TBR, which I will explain in a second. So this says Words of Radiance is the next highest rated. I will not be reading Words of Radiance because I don't know what number book that is, but it's not the first one. So I recently was looking into Tress of the Emerald Sea. I heard some good things about that one. And when I went to Goodreads to add it, it said it was like book number like 28 of the Cosmere. And I was like, what? So I then like clicked on that, and I saw all these books. Some of them I've heard of that are like really well known, highly rated. Some of them I have not heard of. I'm sure people who are well versed have heard of all of them. But I decided that I would try to tackle them from, you know, first book as they came in my TBR. So Words of Radiance is like the placeholder for the first book, which in the Cosmere is Elantris. I'm going to try and grab this one from my library, especially because I'm not sure if I'm going to like it or not. I've heard that this maybe isn't technically the best one to start with, but I really like going in publication order when I can, unless there's like a strong reason why you shouldn't. That's the one I'm gonna give it a go. If I don't like it, I am not going to say I'm not reading any of his books. I will try several before I say this series isn't for me, especially in a case like this where it's so well loved. Okay, this one and one more fantasy synopsis. I feel like I'm trying to give myself like a little pep talk here. I'm going to butcher these names, I am sure. So Elantris, from what I understand, is kind of like a city. It's the capital of Erelon, and it's this like really benevolent, magical place. There are humans who have actually been transformed into these magical beings who use their power for good. But then 10 years ago, something happened and all the magic was taken away. These positive magical beings were transformed into these kind of like hideous creatures, and Elantris is just like a crumbling mess. So now fast forward, Erelon has a new capital, Kai, and we meet Princess Serene, who is traveling to Kai to marry Prince Raoden. When she arrives, you know, she's hoping to find love and to get married, but turns out they, you know, deliver the news that he died. Despite not having gotten married yet, she is considered his widow. Turns out that's not exactly what happened. Prince Raoden is alive, but he was exiled by his father and sent to Elantris. So now he is trying to help those kind of creatures in Elantris fix the magic system. Sounds like there's also like some, you know, heavy politics going on amidst all that, but that's the general gist. I will definitely, you know, after I read the book, I'm sure I'll have a better understanding. Okay, and then like the next book that I kind of put on my TBR for myself is my longest physical book. So the next longest physical book on my shelf is Big Little Lies by Liane Moriarty, sitting at 458 pages. I am super excited to get to another Liane Moriarty. She is one of my very favorite authors. I just finished What Alice Forgot in July and I loved it. It was a 5-star read for me. I am excited to share my thoughts in my July wrap-up video. I have also read several of her other books. I am so excited for her new one coming out in September called Here One Moment, and there's a couple other backlist of hers that I definitely plan to get to. I would love to read her whole backlist at some point, but she's actually, like, even without having read the whole thing, she's probably by far my most read author. Big Little Lies, however, is probably one of her most well-known because it also was a popular television series on HBO for a while as well. Big Little Lies, we meet Madeline, Celeste, and Jane, 3 women in this town. Madeline is described as like a force to be reckoning with. Celeste is the kind of stunning, beautiful one. And Jane is new to town. She's a single mother. Liane Moriarty always does really great character-driven books. So this is going to get into like mother-daughter relationships, parenting issues, parents behaving badly issues, marriage, and lies where I think someone even ends up dead from it. So should be a good time. I have not seen the television series, but the description of the book is giving me early, like, Desperate Housewives vibes, which I loved, so I think I might want to try and check it out after I read the book. Alright, and then, almost done, I have 4 advanced reader copies that I'm reading in August. This is a big month for buddy reads and advanced reader copies for sure. The first book that I'm going to talk about that I'm reading for advanced reader copies is Beating Heart by Laura Pavlov. This is the 4th book in the Magnolia Falls series. You've heard me talk about this series before if you've watched pretty much any of my videos. I feel like this has become a comfort series for me. I just adore it. It is a series that follows this friend group of 5 guys. Each guy gets his own book. So this is the 4th book. This is Nash's stories. He's our single dad of the group. He has a son who I believe is like maybe 6 or 7. His name is Cutler, also known as Beefcake, and you really should read the other books to find out why, but it's adorable. I do want to take a step back and say that each book can be read as a standalone, though I highly recommend starting with the first book, Loving Romeo, and going from there, because you just really get to know the guys and fall in love with them as you go. So by this book, as I said, they're just very special to my heart. But yeah, so this follows Nash, and really also as a parent, like his son Cutler too. And Cutler struggles with asthma, so they are frequent visitors to the pediatrician. There is actually a new pediatrician in their small town, and she has moved in also right next door. Her name is Emerson Chadwick. And obviously, like, you know, this is a small town romance. Sparks fly between the two of them. I am just very excited for this one, not only because I love the series, but also as like a pediatric NP, I just think I'll enjoy the pediatrician vibes as well. This next arc is The Pieces We've Lost by H.K. Green. This is a debut. I am so excited for it. I've been following the author for a while and just feel really honored to be able to have the opportunity to read this arc. This follows Ellison, and she suffered a tragedy 15 years ago, which also took the life of her father. And she has kind of sworn off the rodeo life that they shared together since then, except for once a year on the anniversary of his death, per the request of her mom, they do go to the rodeo. On the other side, we have Coulter, and he loves the rodeo life. That's all he wants to do, be a cowboy and just focus on that. They cross paths. Ellison obviously wants nothing to do with him because that is painful, and he is determined to win her heart. This comes with some trigger warnings. It's supposed to be a really heart-wrenching, emotional read, but I am ready and I am excited to kind of share this special book from this author. Okay, this is my last fantasy synopsis that I'm going to be doing. The second to last arc that I'm going to be talking about is Cookstall Academy, The Beginning by Nell Nicole and Michaela D. Hernado. In this book, we meet Mira, who is called to attend Cookstall Academy, which is the school for the elite. Her family has a lot of political pull. While she's in school, she reunites with her brother Koa, who also attends school there. Sounds like they haven't seen each other for a while. Koa is involved in some kind of mysterious, dangerous things at school, and Mira discovers this and is sort of pulled in as well. So this story is following these siblings while they're there, uncovering mysteries while avoiding the pull of the dark side. I love a good school setting. I'm interested to see where the plot of this one goes. And then the very last book on my August, or we'll say Delulu at this point, Delulu list is The Slowest Burn by Sarah Chamberlain. This is a reality, not really a reality show romance, but it has like the reality show elements, and you know I love a good reality show romance. This follows Kieran. He just won a reality show, cooking show, and he has a cookbook work in the deal. He has plans to open his own restaurant. Things seem really good on paper, but not everything is perfect. His family really could care less about all his achievements, which is obviously disappointing. He struggles with ADHD, so he's finding it tricky to get some things done, and he has a ghostwriter for his cookbook that he finds to be super uptight. Ellie is that ghostwriter. She is a 30-something-year-old widow. She is living with her in-laws and her little brother. Also, life is not, the greatest. And she is not impressed by Kieran and his chaotic life right now. So, but they have to come together to get this cookbook done. This is obviously a opposites attract romance, and it does sound really sweet. So those are all my books for August. I am also participating in the Battleathon Readathon hosted by Mel Lenore Reads. I am on Team Thorns. If you want to join, it's not too late. It just started, but I kind of feel like I get the feel of readathons as it goes, but it's kind of a bracket style readathon, and it's based on your book's ratings. 5-star read is going to get your team more points than a 1-star. So I think I have a lot of good books in my TBR, so I'm hoping for lots of 5-star reads to help out my team. And I think that's it for this video. Feel free to leave any books that you are reading in August in the comments. And if you're not feeling super chatty but just want to let me know that you were here, leave a rose emoji for the Thorns team, and I will see you on my next video. Bye!